Hi, this is Vanessa. Welcome to ASEAN News. Coronavirus outbreak inspires burst of mass fashion creativity in Indonesia and Malaysia.
Nicholas Septian Sugandi's print shop had been losing business throughout his country's mask scales restrictions aimed at curbing the spread of the coronavirus.
Ya, awalnya kami berjualan masker.
In the beginning, we were skeptical about the manufacturing of face design cloth masks, but later, after we began producing them, demand surged, and it has helped us recover from the business loss since this pandemic began. Sugandi's shop has been printing customers' faces onto reusable face masks so that they can look like themselves when wearing it. In particular, Hafiz uses batik, which is a traditional Javanese art that uses wax and ink to decorate clothes.
Saya mula melihat peluang baru dalam berkarya, iaitu dengan
I began to see a new opportunity in making batik face masks because at the time we were instructed to wear face masks for personal safety. So as a designer, I saw that as an opportunity to use the clothes that I had, that it batik's textiles, and it turned into face masks. Although face masks are not compulsory in Malaysia, people are encouraged to wear them to protect them.
Akhirnya menjadi orang itu melihat kita.
When people see us, they seem to be wondering why we're smiling and laughing. But thanks to the face masks, we no longer look like we're sick. Although, ideally, we should be using surgical masks, selves, in public areas.
Maksudnya sudah, memang sebenarnya sih idealnya tuh yang medis yang 3 plik.
Fung Chi Choi says that mask is from his sister and they don't need to always spend money because this mask can wash again.
Mask ini dari kakak saya lah.
This mask is from my sister, so we can recycle, and we won't need to always waste money because after using it, we can just wash it again. There's no need to always buy again, and it's comfortable and unique.
Macam ni lah, dan selesa lah, dan lain daripada lain lah.
Each of the reusable masks take around 30 minutes to produce and cost 50,000 Indonesia rupiah each. Wearing a face mask remains a mandatory practice across Indonesia. Indonesia currently has more than 50,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases and more than 2,000 deaths, the highest total in the Southeast Asia, while Malaysia has recorded more than 8,000 cases and more than 100 deaths.
Philippine court finds news site that Chief Maria Reza guilty of libel.
The head of a Philippine news website, known for its tough scrutiny of President Rodrigo Duterte, faces up to 6 years in jail after being found guilty of cyber libel by a Manila court in a case for media freedom in the country. Cyber libel is among the numerous lawsuits filed against Reza and Rappler that have been drawn global concern about a free and open media in the Southeast Asian country. After handing down the verdict, Judge Rainelda Estacio Montesa says freedom of the press could not be used as a shield.
Sa mga Pilipino nanonood po.
To all Filipinos, this isn't just about Rappler. This isn't just about us. This is about every one of us. Freedom of the press is the foundation of every single right you have as a Filipino citizen.
Freedom of the press is the foundation of every single right you have as a Filipino citizen. We're at the precipice. If we fall over, we're no longer a democracy. And in many ways, that could be easier for all of us, right? I've worked under Suharto in Indonesia, Deng Xiaoping in China. The rules are very clear. This kind of gray area where if you go too far, you'll get slammed. Let's not play the game. Are we a democracy or not? Let us do our jobs.
Citing information contained in an intelligence report from an unspecified agency that Maria Reza, chief executive of Rappler, was charged with cyber libel over 2012 article updated in 2014 that linked to a businessman to murder and trafficking of humans and drugs. Reza, who had denied any wrongdoing, was allowed to post bail. Rappler's operating license was rescinded in 2018 over alleged foreign ownership violations, and it is also dealing with a case involving alleged task evasion. Media watchdogs says that the charges against Reza were trumped up and aimed at intimidating those who challenged Duterte's rule, in particular his deadly crackdown on illicit drugs.
The Myanmar barbershop going door to door offering customers haircuts at their doorsteps.
A mobile barber shop in Myanmar is attempting to trim coronavirus fears by going door to door, offering customers haircuts at their doorsteps. People are afraid of going outside during this time of virus outbreak, even though this cannot ensure it's completely safe from infection. I'm so happy for their home delivery service during this time. Staffer Pio Kiao said that idea for the truck came out of desperation for a trim during the ongoing virus restrictions in the country. People are afraid of going outside during the lockdown. We also really wanted to get a haircut and got so stressed at the time as the barber shops were closed down. We sympathized that other people would be feeling the same as us. The idea for the mobile barber truck came about during our stressful mood. So, we launched our idea and set out on a mission to give people a door-to-door barber services across Yangon. Pio Kiao said even after restrictions ease, people will continue to be reluctant to leave their homes, and he adds that this is opportunity for a new normal, for their business to grow amid COVID-19, and their business has a lot of potential in the future. The truck was launched and is now averaging 10 to 15 customers per day. Each haircut costs about $3.59. Staff disinfect the truck in between customers and say they use equipment such as masks, gloves and face shields only once. We disinfect all the equipment used in the truck. We use some equipment like masks, gloves and face shields only one time and discard it afterwards. As a result, we have gained trust from customers. We are now getting more bookings from customers compared to when we launched the truck last month. Customers typically book services ahead of time, but he said any extra clients they have picked up while out on the streets is a bonus. People are not allowed to gather in groups of more than 5 people. Crowded areas like pagodas and churches remain closed and there is a curfew in place from 12 to 4 a.m. Some barber shops and salons remain open, but not all. There have been 163 cases of coronavirus in Myanmar and 6 deaths.
The Philippines government inaugurates the construction of a beach ramp on a disputed island in the South China Sea.
The Defense Ministry said
Thailand and Myanmar mark event in International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking.
Thailand and Myanmar authorities destroyed seized illicit drugs worth more than $2 billion in an annual event to mark the International Day Against Drugs Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. In the province of Thailand's ancient capital, Ayutthaya, Food and Drug Administration officials incinerated 25 tons of confiscated drugs including methamphetamine, ice, ecstasy, cocaine, and heroin. Drug dealers have taken the opportunity in the beginning of the lockdown. They're not stopping drug trafficking by sneaking through loopholes. Our children are making the wrong decision to order narcotic drugs online, and the dealers send to them. So we are now getting strict rules on package carriers. An Australian Federal Police senior liaison officer to Thailand said, methamphetamine makes up the bulk of drugs going from the Mekong area to Australia, with methods ranging from containers, ships, postal packages, and airline passengers.
Well, the main drugs that we see coming out of the Mekong area and sort of, in this region is methamphetamine. Certainly in years gone by, it's been heroin, and certainly Australia, there was a lot of consumption in heroin. But what we're seeing now is much more methamphetamine consumption in Australia now. So it's a range of different methods. We've seen drugs coming in containers to Australia. We've seen drugs come in ships to ships around Australia. We've seen drugs coming in parcel post, in postal packages. So it's a range of different methods. Of course, sometimes in airline passengers and cargo and luggage and things. So organised crime is very adaptable and changing methodologies. So we see a full range of those types of things impacting on Australia.
Myanmar's police force also burned a drug haul worth $144 million from Yangon, Mandalay and Taungi. The Myanmar police force colonel Halawai says Myanmar has become the transit place of narcotic drug distribution to Europe and Asia. Drugs valued at more than 100 million were seized last year. For this year, we have seized more than 144 million worth of drugs, so we have got $35 million more compared to last year. Myanmar has become the transit place of narcotic drug distribution to Europe and Asia. The number of drug seizure cases in 7 states is less than the Yangon division. But the big amount of confiscated drugs was seized in Rakhine State because it has coastlines connecting to other countries. The country remains the second biggest producer of heroin and the source of most of the Southeast Asia's methamphetamine, which is mostly produced in the border regions outside the government's control.
Female frontline fails defense of Cambodia land.
Cambodian activists fighting plans to transform Phnom Penh's largest lake into a luxury development made a tactical decision when they took to the streets, put women on the front line to show gentle face and prevent violence. Im Sri Toj says they are mostly women because we are more gentle, so we face less violence. This is our strategy. If they let men participate in our protest, they let them stand behind us or outside, and they stand in the front to reduce the likelihood of violence. Tep Vani, activist from Bungkak, says they won't have a chance from leadership and they don't have trust in Prime Minister because he cannot solve their problems. Rights Watchdog says the number of people killed in land conflicts around the world soars, more than half of the dead have been women. In Phnom Penh, the conflict began in 2007 when nearly 4,000 families were stripped of their housing rights after the Cambodian government leased the Bungkak Lake area in the nation's capital to make way for an upmarket mini-city.
Vietnamese farmers cultivate rice at night to avoid hot temperatures.
Farmers at a village on the outskirts of Hanoi planting rice at night in order to avoid increasingly hot temperatures during the day. The capital city of Vietnam has been with temperatures reaching up to 40 degrees Celsius. Tai Hong Ngoc, a rice farmer from Tam Tan, who has worked his whole life in the fields. I cannot withstand the heat like before, that's for sure. We can't even harvest it if not for the machinery. If I have to manually harvest crops like before, and surely I will just abandon it. It's just too hot. Although their productivity has been reduced to half the original amount due to the darkness, they can work for longer hours than they can in the daytime heat. Farmers at Tam Tan also said planting at night prevents rice crops from withering easily in the daytime heat. Working in the field only yields enough rice for my own family to eat. It's not like before when we can make living relying solely on agriculture. Now we can't anymore and have to find other jobs. We do this only to keep the land and plant rice to eat because the crop is not enough to sell for money. It is too little and no one wants to work the field anymore. In fact, many have quit.
The weather recently is very harsh, and with the prolonged heat wave, we couldn't do much during the daytime. So, we prepare in the daytime, and then plant the rice at night around 1 or 2 a.m., which is more effective because around 8 a.m. the heat is unbearable.
Vietnam reportedly experienced its highest temperature on record last year at 43.4 degrees Celsius in Ha Tinh province in central Vietnam. The Vietnam's National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting said many parts of the country were suffering new heat waves this year, though temperatures so far were below last year's record.
The death toll in a landslide are rising above 160 in northern Myanmar.
Authorities say the death toll in a landslide at a Jain mine in northern Myanmar has risen above 160, with more feared death as search efforts continued for a second day. Grief also began to set in, with video showing a woman mourning a near body. A heap of mining waste collapsed into a lake and buried many workers under mud and water. The fire service department said by late evening rescue worker has recovered 162 bodies, while Tarli Maung, a local official from the Information Ministry, said the number dead was 161, with 43 hospitalized. He adding, half of the victims are yet to be identified, and many were migrants who were living in a small tent beside the mine. The fire service department said in a Facebook post, the miners were collecting stones in the jade-rich Phakant area of Kachin state, in the centers of Myanmar's secretive jade industry, when the muddy wave crashed onto them after heavy rain. Deadly landslides and other accidents are common in the poorly regulated mines of Phakant, which draw impoverished workers from across Myanmar in search of germs, mostly for export to China.
In amid of the lockdown, Lalain Baha restaurant owner permit people to dine in her restaurant.
Restaurants in the capital reopened their dine-in services and they allowed to strict health protocols inside the establishments because of the pandemic reduced the economic. Lalain Baha has started allowing customers to dine in her restaurant in Manila. Baha, who owns a small eatery that serves Filipino dishes catering to low and middle income earners, says the option to allow dine-in services helped pick up the demand for her restaurant.
So we are thankful
when even 1 or 2 customers eat at our restaurant.
Nagpapasalamat kami sa ganon.
President Rodrigo Duterte on Monday allowed the continuation of the capital's relaxed rules to reopen more businesses and limited movement in the city. The restrictions can change depending on the rate of the coronavirus cases reported in the capital. The health department reported a total of more than 26,000 infection cases and more than 1,000 deaths in the Philippines.
Tourists take a historic walking tour on 85-year-old Myanmar pipeline amid coronavirus lockdown.
A historic walking tour of Yangon on top of an 85-year-old winding maze of water pipelines has attracted various foreign expatriates and domestic tourists who had been cooped up at home amid the coronavirus lockdown. The pipeline is considered a lifeblood of Yangon, distributing water to the 4.5 million people in the state since it was built by the British in 1935 during the colonial period before World War II. Founder of local tour agency Uncharted Horizons, Jochen Meisner says, standing and walking on top of the pipeline which is measures 2.2 meters from the level ground. The tours comprising small groups of people last about 6 hours and they have seen an increasing interest amid the shutdown.
Now since March we were all pretty much locked up caught in the lockdown in Yangon, and all of us were craving already for nature, for fresh air, for some new adventure. And one of us, he came up with the idea, said, oh, there's this old water pipeline which starts in Yankin. We said, we had no idea where it actually comes from and where it will take us. But we thought, it's a great idea to explore and walk on this pipeline.
The pipeline is 70 kilometers long as it meanders through poor residential areas starting from the Gyeopyo Dam to the outskirts of Yangon to the center of former capital city.
As most tourists, when they visit Yangon, they go to the very well-known places like Shwedagon and Sule Pagoda, People's Parks. But this one, this pipeline is quite unique, and very few tourists and very few foreigners have a chance to visit that. So I believe I'm quite lucky to enjoy that unique experience on the pipeline, which is more than 80 years old or something like this.
Local tourist Kiaozin Lat says the pipeline walk is very exciting and relaxing for us to venture on after the long duration of the lockdown from COVID-19. This is important for us because we are all in the lockdown at home in the past 2 months. The pipeline walk is very exciting and relaxing for us to venture on after the long duration of the lockdown from the COVID-19. I am excited and happy as it is the first time that I am doing this. Recognizing the potential for new tourist attraction, the Yangon City Development Council have also helped clear overgrown shrubbery and bush around parts of the pipeline. Myanmar has announced 290 cases of COVID-19 with 6 deaths recorded. People are not allowed to gather in groups of more than 5 people in public places, while social distancing measures are in place until June 30.
Thank you for today. We'll see you again.